Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unison Community podcast. I'm the host and founder of Unison, Gabriela. We hope you'll continue the conversation with us at unisoncommunity.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unison podcast, the podcast about women's health created by, with, and for women. So, welcome to our first episode. This podcast was created to complement the conversation that is happening on our website, unisoncommunity.com. So, this is an online community created by, with, and for women, where you can learn, connect, react to, and share your unique experiences around health and wellness. So on this site, the goal is for you to gain knowledge and the confidence you need to advocate for yourself, ask better questions at medical appointments, and to support others on their health journeys. So on this podcast, the goal is to have guests who would like to share their experiences with women's health, whether it's an experience they'd like to share to help others to navigate their own health, or to talk to professionals in the space who can help us learn to be better prepared for our appointments, advocate for ourselves, or independent from appointments, just how can we take care of ourselves generally to understand our health and our bodies. So our first guest today is Andreanne Breton-Carbonneau, and not only is she the co-founder of Unison, but also she has her own consulting practice called ACBC Consulting, and there she works with governments and nonprofits to advance climate resilience and health equity. She's also a health equity researcher who works at the intersection of public health, community engagement, and systems change. She holds a master's degree in public health from the University of London, and she is pursuing a doctorate in environmental science currently, where she studies the intersection of climate, environment, and public health. So welcome, Andreanne.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here on our first ever podcast episode.
Yes, super exciting. And thank you so much for joining us and for really being on this journey with me and hopefully with everybody else who joins us too. So this is super exciting. And I wanted to start off just kind of, first of all, we have just created this website. We're trying to figure out how to grow this community, how to help women kind of advocate for themselves in the space, like we said. And so I just wanted to ask, what does Unison mean to you? And then I also wanted to share a little bit about what it means for me too. So curious if you could share that.
Yeah, well, I guess I can just start with when you reached out to me about this project, because when you named it, I was like, oh, like this is so needed. Like having a platform where you can just share what you're going through, some of the confusion that you have, and to feel like you have a community on the other end that's there to listen, there to help and support, to provide guidance, and even like those key pieces of like how to advocate for yourself in a medical appointment. Like I've noticed them in different reels here and there scrolling on Instagram, but like just having like one space where you could really like dive into it with people, I think is super needed. And even just highlighting different kinds of potential treatments that other people have experienced and what their, how that impacted them, or if they had a good experience or bad experience. I think this is all information that a lot of us women don't have and is absolutely needed when the research in women's health is just not there. And even like, unfortunately, doctors who constantly are like discrediting our symptoms and even the pain that we have. So just like having that place where you'll be heard.
Definitely. And I think for me also what was really interesting was learning things that felt so obvious that I should know about my body or my health just through word of mouth from friends or peers. I think we're at an age where people are at different stages of their life, and so our bodies are experiencing different things, whether that be pregnancy or trying to prepare for pregnancy or postpartum, or even not related to pregnancy at all, just kind of the daily impact of being a woman, and that could mean so many things. And so it's kind of like I will hear an experience from my friend or even something that I've experienced myself where I've learned later because something happened to me, something very basic about my body that I feel I should know. And so if this word of mouth is so impactful, then maybe we should be amplifying this. And so that was my thought process. And just for context, I am a trained city planner. My degree is in economics and my master's is in city planning. And so my grasp on biology and medicine is very basic. I took biology 100, 101, whatever it was in college. So I found myself just really learning through texting friends and peers. And so I thought, why is it that I'm learning this way? I think other people need to be learning this way as well if we really don't have the resources to understand what's happening, especially I think people who are very well versed in science could benefit from this too, but especially for someone like me who perhaps is not a medical professional, I think it's really helpful for that as well. And that's kind of where the idea came. It popped in my head in 2022, and then just kind of like further experiencing this, I think we need to really put this into play. And I'm just excited to see what it can evolve into. So next, I wanted to talk about, we touched on this a little, but how did you and I come together? So first of all, do you remember how we met, Andreanne?
I was actually just thinking about this of like, oh my God, like when did we meet? I knew obviously we met in elementary school, but I was sitting there, I was like, was it second grade with Mrs. Aftuck's class?
Yeah. Good
So yeah, we
times.
both went to Bishop Elementary School in Greater Boston and Arlington. I guess met in second grade, but stayed in the same school system from elementary school to high school, and also we were chemistry lab partners, right, in high school.
Yes, this was not my best subject, but I did really enjoy lighting the Bunsen burner. That was my favorite part. But yeah, we were in chemistry, and then Michael was our third lab partner. And I remember we had to write songs to popular music, and we wrote Under Pressure with
Yes.
like chemical references. So that was a good time.
Yeah.
Um,
In terms of then reconnecting though, like, well, on my background, I got my master's in public health, but I work a lot with urban planners, city planners in my work around like systems change for health equity, the social determinants of health, which includes built environment, stuff like that. And then I saw that you got a degree in city planning. And also, I think it came up in conversation with some other friends that Porter Square isn't a square.
oh,
It was like,
it really isn't though.
and I was like, oh, I should definitely get in touch because I'm so curious also about how your work sees the realm of like public space and planning and participatory engagement and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think just wanted to reach out because I'm always, with my own consulting practice, looking at different angles or different ways to approach things. But I was like, oh, Gabby's really cool. Let me just check in.
I do remember that conversation, and now that you bring it up, I didn't recall that before this, but I remember the Porter Square conversation. And I'm glad you reached out because I was really kind of thinking to myself, I want to get this started, but I'm not, in public health or anything, and I think it would be great to talk to someone about this. And so, while we hadn't really kept in regular contact, I decided to reach out again last summer, and then we got rolling on this idea. And then Will Brown has been working closely with us too to help us develop and create the site. So shout out to Will. And We'll explain the website a little bit more, but I'm hoping, Andreanne, before we kind of get into that, can you share what your experience has been in women's health research and your professional career as well? What's been relevant to this work?
Yeah. I guess like more specifically, like my research isn't 100% focused on women or women's health, but in a lot of my work around systems change and health equity in particular, women's health obviously comes up, and it comes up in different ways, like specifically like say like single parents are often women, and the toll that that takes and how that can lead to different like health outcomes for these moms, and then also just the different impacts, because I also work a lot with climate change, of how like women who are often the like family planners, or not for their family planning, but like planning around for their families and taking care of their families, their children, that a lot of the time they are the first people to start thinking about, okay, like who would I need to contact? How would I need to organize my family to best keep us safe? And so it's like a lot of women doing like the emotional labor, the added load of keeping tabs with their family and keeping track of everyone. And so these are related to the planning, but then even in behavioral health and things that impact women. So I do a lot of this stuff in my day-to-day work. But I also do a lot of community engagement, and I do a lot of community building type projects. And I think that this project with Unison is a really nice place to do a kind of a mix of both. I'm usually doing either with a nonprofit or a government, planning with these communities to think about how to better access care, or how to better manage your built environment for better health outcomes. But this is really, I guess, like direct with people, like having that conversation that isn't through a focus group or a workshop, which are great for the purposes that we need in my work. But this is just more personal. People getting to talk with other people and just share what they're going through, and not for the purpose of like, improving access to care, but really just like helping their own confidence and helping their own abilities to navigate their health journeys or their well-being journeys. And so trying to bring the same kind of skills that I use in my work, but in this platform that's more direct with people.
Definitely. And that's super interesting on your research. And now that you bring it up, I feel that would be such a great topic to cover in an episode of the podcast. But again, like you mentioned, I think this is a great website to be that outlet. And what you mentioned about community engagement, I've definitely done that, but in the context of infrastructure projects. And so I think what's important in community engagement is accessibility. So just something we want to emphasize here too is this is, a community. We want to hear your feedback, and if something isn't working for you, this is a beta of the website, and we'll explain what that is a little bit later, but this is an open conversation. So if something isn't working for someone, we want to hear about it, and I'll let you all know my contact information for that later, but I'm really glad that you brought that up, because we do want this to be a space where women feel comfortable sharing, where it's easy sharing. And again, there isn't much that we can know until we experience or feel it sometimes. And so we want people to be prepared for different challenges or stages of life. The other thing with accessibility and being able to share is that the website can be as anonymous or as not anonymous as you want it to be. So you can share as much or as little as you want to. There's no profile pictures. Your username can be whatever you want it to be. We really just want the website to be an uplifting place to manage some of these challenges that we've mentioned before. So in hearing all of this, if this website seems like something for you, we do encourage you to get started on the site. So again, this website only has value if people are participating on it. So we are depending on you to kind of help this mission happen. So once you go to unisoncommunity.com, that is our website, you can create an account, you can get started reading and writing posts, and then we have already set up some spaces that can vary from aging to gynecological health to wellness to mental health and more. And you're also able to create your own if something you want to discuss isn't on there. But within these spaces, you can create certain topics and posts to start commenting and getting the conversation going. So we're so excited to get these conversations going, and there is some activity already happening on the website, so go check it out. Andreanne, from a health equity and public health perspective, why is Unison's mission so important? I know you talked about this a little bit, but what do you think the outlook for something like this could be?
Well, I think personally, I'm really hoping that it becomes that resource that people need to better understand themselves, their bodies, better understand what's out there, like what's possible. Like, maybe their doctor never offered a particular test or a particular treatment, but maybe that's the thing that they need. And it's like sort of this health literacy component or healthcare literacy component of like, how can I access care in a way that I feel heard or that I feel that I was properly cared for. And I think this is something that you add on like race, you add in language barriers for different communities or different women, and like suddenly like it's already hard. And then suddenly you have these added barriers, and not to mention in the United States too, the cost of healthcare is incredibly high. And so people don't want to waste their time. Like that time is also very expensive, and people want to make sure that if they're going to be spending that money, that they're getting proper care in return. And I think this is hopefully, again, a platform that can really help broaden that, because again, from a public health perspective, we try to do these campaigns, we try to better understand what are these barriers to entry, but it's not at the personal level. It's not like me, Andreanne, speaking to you, Gabby. It's this public health nonprofit putting out posters to the general public, or hospitals trying to change how they do their services. So, I mean, all of these things are needed, but I think this is one piece of the puzzle that I think is so important that it kind of almost, what do you say, like just putting out that information into the public. It's like it democratizes that information, and it's not just gate kept in research papers or gate kept in professional circles. And I understand like there's probably some listeners also wondering, what about people who spread misinformation and all of that? But I do think that there is so much more value in having that space of like other voices and other people to support. That of course there is a concern around misinformation, but I think ultimately just having that space of support is so needed. And even from a personal perspective, I have endometriosis, and even in the public health field, like I work in this so a lot. This is my job, and yet like I've struggled to advocate for myself, or I've felt lost and confused and overwhelmed and frustrated. And I used to be so good about going to the doctors, like I don't understand like how people don't go. And then after having this condition and having all these symptoms, I'm like, oh, I get it now. I get why people don't go, because you get dismissed. Your pain is sort of seen as negligible. Your problems aren't really problems. And you know that your quality of life has dipped. You know how it's affected you emotionally, mentally, and physically. And yet here you are, like the only people who can possibly offer you help who are just saying, we got nothing for you, or like, we don't believe you. And I think if I had a platform like this at the time, I would have felt validated. I would have felt seen, like, oh, other people are going through this too. I'm not crazy. And there's a name to this. Like maybe I should be getting tested for these things. And even like, there's different, even like clinical trials. I did one this summer, which we can talk about.
Wow, yeah.
Too, but just knowing about what what's out there and how can you better take agency and have control over your own health. That's, I guess, why Unison's mission is so important to me.
Definitely. And thank you so much for sharing that. I love what you said about the democratization of information because that's so important. And what you mentioned about misinformation, just for context, we will have reporting in place and all of that. But I feel like when you're in pain or when you're dealing with something that's so bothersome day in and day out, you just want to know all of the possibilities of what it is or what could happen so you can ask the questions you need. There's so many things that exist out there obviously and that we don't know about as just kind of a non-medical professional, but we just want to emphasize that this website is not providing medical advice and it's not meant to replace your medical professional, but rather we're hoping it can be a complement to your medical help so you can go in prepared, ask the right questions, ask about possibilities, because we also do know that our physicians are very under-resourced at the moment and there's a lot of demand for medical help right now. And so I think it could also be a support for them too. And I have found from conversations I've had with nurses and doctors that just people asking some of the right questions can be so much more productive than kind of going into an appointment without a clue or an idea. And I think that happens to us a lot of the time, and that's fine. But I think now with the availability of the internet, we do find ourselves Googling and WebMD and all of that. In my experience doing that, I've been finding that some of what I've been experiencing has been really difficult to find in women's health. Digging to the depths of the internet to find a very specific sort of diagnosis or what other people are experiencing. And so we're hoping that this place can be a website where all of it's in one place. You're not kind of digging through search result page 24 of Google or something like that. We're hoping that hopefully this can be your first stop for women's health and kind of looking into potentially what's happening. And then really just go in feeling confident and prepared for your appointment and, perhaps trying to just understand what possibilities there are, and maybe even once you are diagnosed with something, figuring out what worked well for someone else, like these stretches or this YouTube yoga instructor really helped me with my back or something of that nature too. So I think the possibilities are really endless. And while the website right now is a conversational kind of tool, we are hoping, Andreanne and I are brainstorming and hoping that this website does continue to evolve into providing even more research. And so we will have a newsletter that when you sign up, you'll get our monthly newsletter, and in there we'll be able to include updates on women's health, what are some findings or things that are evolving in the space, and then hopefully being able to consolidate some of that information on the site. And then we've even had talks of a book club if that's interesting to people and such. And so part of what I do want to incorporate on this podcast too is we will have medical professionals on here and, other people who have had different types of experiences. So I do want to ask them, like, what are you reading? Have you read anything interesting, whether it's an article or a book or even like not just reading a Netflix show that maybe was of interest or you learned something from. And we do want the website to evolve, but we do think this conversational piece is really important. And Andreanne, thank you again so much for sharing your experience. I think that a lot of people go through things like that, and so this can be a space to help people feel better, a little bit more informed and more confident going into any appointments that they need to. I know I'm a list maker, so I always go in with the list of questions, and I like having that, and it just makes me feel like I am getting the productivity, even if it is a 20-minute, 15-minute doctor's appointment. So, and for context, Andreanne does live in Spain. This is, something that's happening all around the world. This isn't just in the US. So we're all kind of dealing with similar things. And then pivoting a little bit more to the website specifically, Andreanne. So we talked about that this is a beta version. I don't know if you want to share a little bit about what that means, and tack on to your response?
Yes. Before I do that, I did, when you like brought up the book thing, I was like, I love, I don't know if you've read it, the book Invisible Women,
Oh no, I haven't.
Data, Bias in a World Designed by Men.
Oh no, I have not read that. I'll
You should.
add it to
You
my.
and like
Okay.
absolutely, it'll change how you understand. You're like, oh, this is what it's. Yeah, it's a great book. Speaking of design, I guess. um, your question about the beta, we had thought through originally, what if we just, build it in like the perfect way that we see it and then launch it, like a very like formal launch process. But then kind of working our way back when we had all these questions, we're like, wait, like, going back also to my work consulting stuff, I do a lot of participatory co-design and things like that. And I was like, what if we actually do a beta so that we can design it together with the community that uses it? And again, like this platform is for you. It's for, anyone who like is trying to just understand and take better control or care of themselves in this confusing world of women's health or just like women existing. And so it was really like, how do we actually go back a couple steps and build it for the community that'll be using it? And so that's to say, like, again, it's a beta, so it's not the final version. It's really like in some ways, I guess you can see it kind of like an outline. Like we have kind of the key pieces that we think would be important, but it should absolutely like evolve and improve based off of like you trying it out, and sharing feedback with us about like what features could make this a much better and engaging or interactive or supportive community. Or even to that point that you mentioned, Gabby, about like accessibility, like what are some things that we may have left out that we should be integrating? And so, in order to get there, in order to design it to work best for you, we really need you to use it. And we need your activity, you sharing your questions, you engaging with other people who are posting, and like I said, and then like sharing your feedback with us so that when we launch it, I don't even know what the real launch is called. Is it alpha?
I've been calling it alpha. As you can see, we are not the we are not the most tech people. Like I mentioned, we have a fabulous developer working with us who has been educating us in this space. So don't worry, you are in good hands. We are just not the technical people.
We are
But
not.
I've been calling it the alpha. So final version, final draft. Although again, it's not final because it is ever evolving. But yes.
Yeah. So like we're essentially launching this beta so that we can co-design this platform with the community that will be using it. So that's you, and we want you to be a part of creating this platform, this website, and this community. So the beta is open. If you're interested, and yeah, we'll hope that you use it, that you benefit from it, and that you feel like you got value out of it, that you share it with other people too, that you share it with the other women in your life.
Yes. And like we mentioned, we want this website to be created by you too. And so we definitely want to hear from you. We'll be sending out surveys occasionally related to the user interface, user experience, things you want to see, anything else you'd like to see within the community, maybe even off the website or related to the podcast. We have a bunch of topics coming up that we're super excited about and that will delve more into kind of specific either medical issues or experiences that women have had kind of managing different phases of life or with their bodies. But we're also open to anyone or any topic you want to hear about. So That's exciting. So the email address that you can reach out to is support@unisoncommunity.com. So Unison is Unison. So that is the name of our company, and that is essentially, we're hoping we can all come together to learn about, womanhood, our bodies, and our health. So in terms of wrapping up here, Andreanne, I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your experience. I'm sure we're going to see more of you soon. Thank you for sharing your book. I'm definitely going to add that to my list. And actually, one for you is, it's actually more of a coffee table read, less of a kind of cohesive book, more of like a little bits and pieces, but it's called Power to the Pelvis by Alicia Jefferson Thomas. And she writes all different things kind of related to the pelvis, and kind of exercises and ways to cope with different issues. And that can be from digestion to reproductive issues to how to sit in a chair. So it's just very helpful, like small tips that, and I found this book at Love Struck Books in Harvard Square. It's a new bookstore. I don't know if you've been yet. You probably haven't since you're in
No.
Spain. Yeah, it is in Harvard Square. It's supposed to be a romance kind of novel book bookstore, but they have a lot of women's health stuff, I found. So I found a few books there that I've been reading. So we will share those later. But anyway, thank you again, Andreanne, for joining us. And I wanted to share a preview for next month's podcast. So this podcast will be monthly for now, and hopefully we can ramp it up soon as we get more interest in the site. So we will discuss advocating for yourself in a medical setting, nursing with OBGYN nurse practitioner Shelsa Riva, who is really well versed in women's health, and so we'll cover a variety of high level topics in women's health. How to like I mentioned, how to advocate for yourself in an appointment, and then she'll also just talk about the dynamics of kind of nursing in this space. And then we have more planned guests for you, so please stay tuned. We have an Instagram account, and we hope you'll follow us. Our Instagram is Unison Community, so it's at Unison Community, so you can DM us there if you're not as into email. And then if you join the site, like I mentioned, be on the lookout for our newsletter. This website will be evolving, so I'm excited to see what happens, and we look forward to collaborating with you on these topics and making women's health information more accessible. So can't wait to grow with you. Does your organization support women's health, empower women to better advocate for themselves, or to understand their bodies? Please reach out. We'd love to hear from you, whether for sponsorship, partnership, or just to connect.